And it was supposed to be this sort of like checkmate Bernie bro moment.
Here, I've got the tweet right here if you want it.
Read it.
Okay, so she screen capped this image that says, I'm sorry you don't like it when Bernie yells, but not all of us grew up in frigid WASP homes. Which, this is a tweet that somebody who supports Bernie Sanders says, and this clearly made this blue checkmark lib not particularly happy. She screen capped it and said, once, my dad spent a few hours making a pot roast, and when he thought it was slightly overdone, he picked up each plate on the table and flung it at the wall. We didn't get to eat that night. Yeah, I guess you were lucky that your associations with men yelling are positive. Which, I mean, it's astounding. Like, it's literally like completely reinforcing the thing said in the screen capture. Like, it's like, not all of us grew up in frigid WASP homes. She's like, well, I did grow up in this WASP home, and guess what? It is bad. Like, everybody here is terrible. And it's like, and that means that Bernie Sanders is terrible because I don't know. Like, there's no reason for it to be linked. Like, it's literally just like Bernie Sanders is yelling about injustice in the world, which is the same thing as my dad angry about the pot roast that he apparently overcooked.
Oh my God. I want to know, like, how people that are this fragile and sensitive, like, can actually operate in the world
with great difficulty. One of the things that I've noticed is that, like, unless you're basically comatose to not just liberals, but like super happy, friendly, good boy socialist and good girl socialist types or whatever, unless you're like basically comatose, you're considered a toxic person. If you have any sort of affects that isn't totally agreeable, you're considered a toxic person. And I fucking hate that. I fucking hate that, like, conflict avoidant, like, fucking, what's the term you use, Pisa? You said, like, nice boy, or no, what's the term you use again?
The soft boys?
Yeah, the soft boys. And that's the thing, is they're trying to make it seem as if...
The good boys.
The good boys. The good soft boys.
The good soft boys. They're trying to make it seem as if...
Very good, very soft.
If you have any sort of, like, heat in your blood, then you're kind of playing into this sort of quote-unquote toxic masculinity, which in my I think it's good to get angry about things that are worth getting angry about. I think it's good to get animated, and I think it's also perfectly fine to tell someone to fuck off. Like, I remember when I made fun of the lady who we were talking about at the beginning, when I said that she needs to go to see a therapist. There are people who are like, oh my God, another Bernie supporter that has no sympathy for an abuse survivor. And I'm like, bitch, especially if they're trying to weaponize their personal struggle to defame and to smear someone else, I have every single right to tell that person to fuck off. It has nothing to do with what their abuse. Like, I'm not a fucking therapist. I'm not their friend. I'm not their mom. If you decide to bring that into the public conversation in a way that is used to tarnish somebody else, then you're fair game for a fucking lampooning, mate.
We should coin a new phrase for these over hyperbolic, like, friggin' lib types. Pot roast patties.
Oh my God! Yes, pot roast patties of the world.
You had like the manager Karens, and then there was that one that like rang. Who was that? There was the one that was going around for a while with that woman that rang the cops on that black family just having a barbecue. I can't remember what that meme was for a hot second as well. Pot roast patties. There's plenty of pot roast patties around.
It's perfect. Here's the other thing, though. It's not just that they are even smearing a person. They're not just smearing Bernie Sanders. They're smearing the idea of a universal program that would benefit people because they don't like yelling. Like, they equate yelling or having some animated response or having some sort of a problem with the status quo. They equate it with abuse, and that's bullshit. Like, there was a thread a few weeks ago about somebody who they censored out the vowels in Bernie Sanders' name so that it could not be searched. You couldn't search it. You couldn't reply to it with an abusive way.
Yeah, they censor his name like it's a slur,
like it's a fucking slur.
Yeah, and they said. They said, I'm going to have to talk to my therapist about Bernie Sanders, although with asterisks all over all the vowels.
Oh my God.
I'm going to have to talk to my therapist. And you know what my therapist said? She said that all of the women she talked to have talked about Bernie Sanders lately, and she's a therapist that talks primarily with abuse survivors. The implication, of course, is that Bernie Sanders speaking about having a universal healthcare system or paying off student debt and making colleges tuition free, that's abuse.
Conflict is
Fuck
not
that.
abuse.
Fuck that.
Conflict is not abuse.
No, it's not. And that's what this is. It's conflict. We are having conflict in this country between different classes, different people who have different access to different programs. I cannot go to therapy because I just want to one day. That's not something that you can do. And that's the problem. Like you said earlier, Pot Roast Patty's dad could have had therapy if there was a universal healthcare system in which that was covered. And that's that. There's a good chance Pot Roast Patty wouldn't have had that story to tell.
Pot Roast Patty.
Had he been able to go.
Instead of
get
the
in the
whole,
sea.
should we go back in time and kill baby Hitler? It should we go back in time and make sure the pot roast was cooked correctly?
Oh my god.
Do we make sure that he had a home economics program in his high school? Do we make sure that he had a proper mental health regiment in order for him to be able to address his problems internally? And should we have made it so that he had the ability to serve his family well-cooked pot roast?